Alright, welcome back. To me, this is the fun part. We get to see what we've got. These rocks have been in rough grit for about 16 days. I actually went a little over the 2 weeks. So we get to see what they look like. Open them up. Alright. Now you probably notice I'm doing this outside because, like I said in the previous video, this stuff will mess up your drains if you put them down the drain, so it's definitely not good to go down the drain. So we do it out here where it's not going to mess my drain up. Sorry about the traffic. That's a state route down there. There's not much I can do about that. And here are our rocks after about 16 days. Here's my favorite part. They all look kind of gray there. Then you clean them off a little bit. These definitely look a lot different than they did 2 weeks ago. Okay, I'm going to clean this out a little better. And we're going to head inside. Okay, we're inside now. Now the next step is we're going to clean the rocks off good. We're going to check them for cracks or pits or anything like that. And then we're going to move them on to step 2, which will be fine grit compared to the rough grit that we've had them in for the last 2 weeks. I tend to use a toothbrush for this, but I think I find more with my fingers in this than I do with my eyes. Feel the rocks to see if there's anything in there that I need to worry about. Anywhere that we could be carrying grit into the next step. This one seems to be pretty good. Little rough spots on it. That's to be expected. This was that one that was pretty big. It's still pretty big, but you can tell that there's less rock now than there was when we started. We've ground off the outer layer of most of these rocks. Kind of like that one. It's coming in pretty nice. It's got nice color to it. You can tell that the rough edges are gone on these. That's the whole idea in that first step. The second step will grind them down a little bit, but not a ton. This one's got a little bit of a crack in the top of it, nothing major. Got some really nice color in this group. Just swirl in it. The whole idea is I need to find anywhere where any kind of step 1 grit could carry through to the second step. This one's got a little bit of a crack in it. It's not too bad. This one has a definite crack in it. I don't know if I can get this close enough where we can see. See if it will focus there. If you see that crack, there is almost definitely step 1 grit in that crack, which could carry through. I think I'm going to clean it good or best I can right now. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put it in step 2, and we'll see how it comes out on step 2. But if it doesn't look like that crack is widened up a little bit, then it will not go on to step 3. Not sure why my light's blinking there. There we go. Well, you know, I'm doing this pretty much live. There's only going to be one take. See, this one has a hole in it. It's not a big hole, and I think that we can wash the grit out of that. So that's not a deal breaker. Main thing is we're going to watch for places where we can't clean it out, because at that point not going to be able to move forward. Now, one thing you can, if you get something that's got a crack in it, it can't move forward, you can run it through step 1 again. Keep grinding it down until that crack's gone. You'll end up with a smaller rock, but at least it won't mess up weeks worth of work for a whole other batch of rocks. This one has some really nice color to it. I don't know true or false on this, but I've heard that the whole time we're tumbling these rocks, we should not let them dry out. Now, my theory on that is that you don't want any grit that's on them to dry in a hole or a crack, because then you'll never get it out. But I don't know if it's true. I've seen videos where people do let them dry off, and you know, I don't know. I tend to try to keep them wet. So that's why I've got 2 strainers here, and I'm cleaning them off and I'm moving them over to the other strainer. That way I'm keeping them wet. I don't know if you absolutely have to do that. Overall, these came out really nice. This is why I'm glad I did the second week. You know, a lot of places will say you only have to do 1 week in each step, and I could have moved them forward after last week, but I think they look a whole lot better now than they did last week. They're mostly pretty smooth, which is why most of them cleaned off pretty well. And no, this one has some kind of ridges on it. It's not anything I can't clean out, but it's going to be a rough spot. You know, so I don't know. We'll see after step 2. We'll see how that looks, and we'll go from there. This one's got a little bit of a rough spot on it too. I think step 2 will probably take care of that. Step 2 will grind the rocks down, but not as much as 1 did. You'll see the grit. It's kind of like sandpaper. The higher the number, the lesser the grinding ability. And we're going from 6090 to 120-220. I think that's a really neat rock. And if you can see that. These were all, I gathered them at a place near, well, about an hour and a half from where I live. I live in Ohio. So these are Ohio Flint, and it's a farm where you pay, and it was relatively inexpensive. You can go out and grab what you want. You pay by the pound. Really neat place. It was an older lady I talked to. She was really nice. Gave my son a piece of tumbled flint. Some of these I may end up giving back to her, so she'll have more to give to other little boys and make them as happy as she made mine. But Flint does tend to tumble well, and it's got some really neat colors to it, which I kind of like. This one has some crystalline areas in it. I don't know if you can see that or not, but we'll take a chance there. This one has a line on it. I can't even feel it, so I don't know if that's a crack or not. These all, just one more thing, they look shiny right now. They do look shiny because they're wet. They always look better when they're wet. If I let them dry off, they would not be shiny right now. They are a lot smoother than they were when we started, but they're not shiny yet. When we finish step 4, they should look like they look when they're wet. Okay, time to set them up to move on to step 2. Refine grit. So here is the next barrel, and like I said in one of the previous videos, this is not the barrel that I just took these rocks out of. I have a barrel for each step to help with cross-contamination. So hopefully we're not carrying much of the rough grit through on the rocks, and there is none in the barrel because I don't use that in the barrel. Now, first thing you may notice, we talked about in one of the first videos, you're supposed to fill the barrel half to 2/3, maybe 3/4 full. Okay, if you look, and I said this, there's a whole lot less than that now. It's probably barely half. Okay, so what we're going to do is we got to add something to it, and I'm going to add these ceramic pellets, which they're supposed to not grind. So basically, they're just space fillers. We're going to add some of these to kind of fill it up a little bit, keep the rocks from pounding against each other. Okay, and I'm going to add some smaller ones too, just to fill in space. Get a better look at those. To try to keep it in that 2/3 to 2/3 range roughly. Okay, now we add in our grit. This is, you can tell when you look at it, it's a little finer than what we used in the last step. Remember, my scoops are 2 tablespoons. So basically, this is 4 tablespoons. Throw a little extra in there just for fun. Okay. And we add our water. I use the distilled water. I don't know if that makes a difference, but I do. Some people would have done a garnishing stage here between stages. Basically what that would be is I would fill this up with water and I put plain ivory soap, no perfume, no moisturizer or anything like that, plain ivory soap, and you run it for like a half hour to clean the rocks off. I don't do that between step 1 and 2, but I will do that between step 2 and 3, so probably in a week we'll have a video and we'll see how that works. Okay, put the lid back on, let it down a little bit on the edges. Okay, get that in there nice and snug. Second lid on, the washer, top. So I snug it down, push it a little bit more. You know, if you're taking a wrench on that, you're doing way too much. And now we put it back on the tumbler. And a week from now, we'll see how they look after step 2.